can't marry a man you just met.
You can if it's true love.
Anna, what do you know about true love?
Love at first sight is a concept that has been around for centuries, with it also being used in stories for just as long. It can be found in some of the most iconic stories in history, such as Romeo and Juliet and Cinderella, just to name a few. But as time has gone on and the way we view relationships has changed, these kinds of stories have faced criticism due to people finding the romance to be unrealistic or underdeveloped. While these criticisms are entirely fair, I don't think they inherently make those stories bad, as some of those older stories are meant to illustrate a point or invoke a certain emotion within people. You can rightfully complain about how the whole love story of Romeo and Juliet is insane, but that doesn't take away the fact that the story is still popular due to its tragedy. Stories tend to depict love at first sight as this magical moment in which when a character locks eyes with someone, time seems to slow down or their vision becomes blurry, with them believing that they have just laid eyes on the person that they want to spend the rest of their life with. But in reality, this is less so a person falling in love, but rather developing a crush. Said crush is a chemical reaction of sexual attraction, excitement, or euphoria, which then activates the neurotransmitter dopamine, a chemical messenger that stimulates the brain's pleasure centers. There can be several reasons why a person may become infatuated with another. They could be the first person to ever show them kindness, find them to be physically attractive, or a hopeless romantic, be rescued by them. The list goes on and on. Regardless of the how and all the scientific jargon behind it, I do believe that this infatuation can still lead to genuine true love if the people involved form a real connection that goes beyond the initial source of attraction. However, I recently discovered a pattern with this trope in which a large percentage of romances tend to involve one of the characters either being isolated for most of their life or feeling alone in some shape or form. I also noticed that a majority of these romances tend to have it in which it's the girl who has been in isolation for most of their life, with that still being the case in many stories today. This is probably an unintended result of how so many stories had the male hero rescue or meet a beautiful maiden, with it being a reward for all their heroics and the maiden throwing themselves at the hero out of gratitude. Coming across all this soon led me to ponder about the romances I've seen that fall under this criteria and examine if the story did enough to sell the genuineness of the romance.
Why, Eric? Run away with you?
Disney's The Little Mermaid is just one of many movies that have gotten criticism in the last few decades due to how Ariel, a 16-year-old girl, abandoned her entire life under the sea along with her friends and family to be with Prince Eric, a guy she has known for less than a week. Now, saying that out loud does make Ariel sound insane, which isn't exactly inaccurate, but the film surprisingly manages to make this romance feel real. Now, it's important to note that Ariel is a curious and enthusiastic teenager who feels trapped by her life under the sea. While she loves her father, King Triton, and values her friendship with Flounder, she wants to be a part of the human world since she craves for more in life. So even though she fell in love with Eric the moment she saw him, he was simply just another reason why she longed to leave the ocean rather than him being the only reason. Yet despite having these desires, she was never so blinded by them that it made her go to the one person she knew had the power to give her what she wanted, Ursula. The only reason why she ended up going to her was due to her father destroying her entire collection of human souvenirs after discovering she was in love with one. Her initial desire to leave the ocean was first motivated by curiosity and later by love, but now there's a desire for freedom due to her father's actions. Now, Eric is one of the better princes and love interests from the early Disney princess films, as unlike the prince from Snow White and Cinderella, he had an actual personality. He's a down-to-earth guy with a love of adventure and plenty of charm, but has rejected marriage from other princesses since he hadn't felt a real connection with any of them. But he soon believes that he met the girl of his dreams due to her rescuing him from drowning and having the most beautiful voice he has ever heard. Now when he runs into Ariel right after she acquired human legs, he momentarily thinks she's the one he's been looking for, only to conclude that she isn't due to being unable to talk, much to his disappointment and Ariel's frustration. But despite that, Eric gives her shelter at the castle due to seeing that she needs help. It's from here that the movie takes the time to develop their relationship to great effect as we get to see them bounce off one another. While Ariel is unable to talk, she's able to charm Eric due to her energetic and lively personality, both at the dinner table and then going on a tour of his kingdom, which helps lift Eric from his slump of being unable to find the mystery woman who saved him. This provides some good character development for Eric and showcase a sign of maturity as he comes to realize that instead of trying to find said mystery woman, he should focus on the girl in front of him who evokes in him the feelings that he's been searching for. So while he's amazed that Ariel was indeed the one who saved him, that doesn't take away from the fact that he developed genuine feelings for her. And when Ariel is revealed to be a mermaid before then being kidnapped by Ursula, he doesn't hesitate for a second to rescue her, which further showcases his love for her. So yes, while one can critique the absurdity of Ariel leaving her entire life behind to be with Eric despite knowing him for only a brief time, the film makes the love at first sight trope feel earned due to how it took the time to develop this relationship and Eric as a character.
Wait, you got engaged to someone you just met that day?
Now on the other end of the Disney princess spectrum is Frozen, a movie that's the complete opposite of The Little Mermaid and how it views romance, as it's meant to showcase the realistic dangers of rushing into marriage with a person solely because of love at first sight with the relationship of Anna and Hans. Anna would grow up in a very isolated environment since after Elsa accidentally blasted her with her magic, their parents became fearful of how others would react to Elsa's powers. So they would not only cut off the sisters' connection from the outside world, but also separate them from each other. As a result, Anna would grow up craving for both affection and connection as she would roam the castle halls in an attempt to entertain herself while also trying to get close to Elsa again, only to be shut down every time she tried. Now she did still have her parents, though her relationship with them wasn't fleshed out all that much, and even if we go with the intended idea that she was close with them, it wasn't enough to make up the loneliness that she felt. And that loneliness would only go after they tragically died at sea, with her not even being able to mourn them with her sister. So when the gates of the castle were finally opened to the public for Elsa's coronation, Anna was ecstatic as this would be her chance to finally interact with other people, along with her hoping to find true love. That ends up seeming to be the case when she first meets Hans, as she becomes instantly smitten with him, with her falling even harder when Elsa pushes her away yet again at the party. Cue one love song of the two sing about how much they have in common, which concludes with Hans asking Anna to marry him, which Anna accepts. This would lead to characters such as Elsa and Kristoff calling out Anna's brash decision to marry someone she just met, but she refuses to listen to what they have to say as she's convinced that what she has with Hans is true love. But the sad truth is, what she thinks is true love is just her desire to finally be loved by someone due to being starved of that affection for so long. While there are parallels that can be drawn between Ariel and Anna, the key difference is that Anna is even more desperate for connection than Ariel due to having an arguably rougher upbringing. Along with that desperation, there may also be a level of denial at play, as when Kristoff asks her a bunch of questions about Hans that she can't give proper answers about, she just doubles down on the belief that their love is real. But of course, the film reveals that Hans is indeed a villain who is only using Anna to further his wealth and power. While the twist does come out of nowhere and definitely should have been better telegraphed, it's a good thing that the film went in this direction. Had the movie made Hans as perfect as he was made out to be, the relationship would have felt hollow due to Anna giving her heart to the first person who has given her love in years. In contrast, the film tells a love story between Anna and Kristoff, two characters who didn't start on the best of terms but ended up forming a genuine connection with each other. This wasn't accomplished by them having everything in common, but rather getting to truly know the other as they saw the good with the bad while showcasing why they'd be attracted to each other beyond surface level stuff. Kristoff comes to realize that this delusional princess is tougher than she looks, and Anna realizes this gruff Iceman has a soft spot. With that said, I am still glad they went the route of having the act of true love, thawing a frozen heart, take the form of Anna sacrificing her life to save Elsa. While Kristoff kissing Anna would have been serviceable, I feel like it would have also undermined the film's criticism about the fairy tale romance, given that these two have also only known each other for about a day. In that regard, I'm also glad that the movie simply ended with them entering a relationship instead of marriage, as that would have been incredibly tone deaf. While all the characters in this video have faced varying levels of isolation, Wally is the character who may have had it the worst. Being the last functional robot of his line, he has seemingly spent centuries alone, with his only companion at the start of the film being his pet cockroach as he continues his duty of compacting trash. But despite that isolation, Wally is a kind and inquisitive soul who takes joy in collecting things to add to his collection of human memorabilia, along with having a fondness for romantic musicals. His love of those films is a big aspect of his character, as it showcases how he craves to experience romance, with that opportunity presenting itself when Eva arrives. The moment he sees her, Wally is instantly smitten and remains even after almost being blasted by her multiple times. Now you're probably questioning how love at first sight can even work with robots since they have no organic brains, but it's quite simple as in contrast to Wally, Eva is a serious and goal-oriented character who, while also having an inquisitive nature like him, focuses more on accomplishing her mission of finding plant life. The first portion of the film has Wally act awkward around her as he tries to make conversation with her, only to then get terrified and run off, with Eva being confused before going back to work. This right here is what helped make Wally's infatuation feel earnest. While he does constantly stare at Eva like a love-struck puppy, we see that he wants to make a connection with her, with him also taking joy in showing her his treasures, along with the concept of dancing. Another thing that makes this romance work is how it's a slow burn from Eva's side. While Wally begins to break down her walls due to his earnestness, with her finding him charming, her directive of retrieving the plant is her main priority. So when Wally starts interfering with her ability to do so, such as accidentally marking her as a dangerous faulty robot, she tries to send him back to Earth so she can focus on her objective. But despite this frustration, we see her become heartbroken when it seems like he died in the escape pod when it blew up, with that grief quickly turning into relief and joy when it's revealed that he's still alive. This low burn ends up paying off in the climax of the film when she sees how Wally took care of her while she was in hibernation mode. This was the final push she needed to recognize her developing feelings for Wally, as his well-being ended up becoming more important than completing her main directive when he ended up becoming injured. Between a robot overriding their directive and also bringing back Wally's memory through the power of love after he reverted to factory reset due to his injuries, you honestly can't get any more authentic than that.
You do have feelings for me.
What? Jealous? Don't be ridiculous.
The Legend of Korra was obsessed with this trope, as Korra, Mako, and especially Bolin would all experience this in the narrative. Yet in the end, the series would end up deconstructing this trope, as barring Kai and Genoa, none of the relationship that occurred to this became endgame. How much of that was intentional is frankly hard to say, given that Avatar has never been the best at romance, plus the series was originally going to end after the first season with Mako and Korra becoming a couple. But for as messy and annoying as the romantic drama was, it is interesting how the narrative explored how love at first sight doesn't always lead to never-ending love. Starting with Korra, she was already starstruck over Mako before even meeting him in person due to hearing about his prowess at pole bending over the radio, with her gushing over him even more when seeing him in action. Yet Mako is dismissive of her as he's more focused on advancing to the championship. It's only when Korra managed to help him and Bolin advance to the next round by filling in for their teammate who quit does he become more cordial towards her. The episode ends with it being quite clear that there's a mutual attraction between the two, with even the in-universe narrator later confirming that Korra had had her eyes on Mako since meeting him. and shortly after their first meeting, we'd get an episode of them growing closer as they search for Berlin when he gets kidnapped by Equalist. This would lead to Mako opening up about how he and Berlin lost their parents at a young age, which led to them living on the street and even turning to a life of crime for a while. With these two episodes, we get a decent vibe of their dynamic, as Korra's fiery but forward personality bounces off of Mako's stoic and brooding nature, with him slowly letting his walls down with her. So between him slowly being won over by Korra's charm, along with everything she has done for him in Berlin, it makes sense that he would start to develop feelings for her. But just as this relationship starts to develop, it gets put on pause when Asami enters the picture, with Mako instantly falling for her. He's instantly charmed due to finding her pretty, but then falls even harder between her helping him get the funding that he needs to compete in the pro bending championship, along with both finding solace over how they both lost loved ones at a young age. Going to be honest though, this whole romance feels too good to be true, since what are the chances of Mako running into a stunning woman who happens to not only be one of his biggest fans, but is also rich? Canonically, it is revealed that Asami truly is a selfless and kind person, but the hollowness of it makes so much more sense with the reveal that she was originally meant to be an Equalist. The show almost pulled a Prince Hans, only unlike with Frozen, it wouldn't feel like a tryst coming out of nowhere. Now when Korra learns about Mako and Asami, she instantly gets jealous, with said jealousy leading to this cringeful moment.
Look, I really like you, and I think we were meant for each other.
Apart from giving me secondhand embarrassment, my other problem with this scene is how it feels unowned. The series had only just begun to develop their relationship, so to have Korra say this feels weird. It's why I feel like you could attribute this to a mixture of Korra having a strong personality, along with having no idea how to handle romance due to her upbringing. It isn't addressed as much as it should be in the narrative or the fandom, but Korra's childhood kind of sucked when you stop and think about it. She grew up in a training facility that was isolated from the rest of the world, with the only people she got to interact with being her parents, Naga, the White Lotus, and those who had a connection to Aang. Apart from them, she never got to experience any kind of other relationship, platonic or romantic, so it makes sense why she would react this strongly to the first person she ever had a crush on. After Mako shoots her down since he's dating Asami, Korra is depressed and initially rejects going on a date with Berlin due to not feeling very date-worthy until he lists all the things he admires about her. Being touched by his words, Korra agrees to go out with Berlin, with the two having fun together. Now Berlin has been smitten with Korra from the moment he saw her and had been trying to get close to her with no real luck until now. The dude is a big romantic and is eager to make a connection, but while Korra did have fun with him, the date didn't mean as much to her as it did to him, since she was using it as a way to make herself feel better. But when Mako accuses her of messing with Berlin's heart, she gets smug and assumes that the reason why Mako is acting this way is out of jealousy, which must mean he does have feelings with her, which also leads to this insane moment.
Yeah, but when you're with her, you're thinking about me, aren't you?
While the two converse later about what's going on between them, Mako admits that while Korra drives him crazy, he does indeed like her, but as he explains that it's complicated since he also likes Asami, Korra spontaneously kisses him. This, however, causes even more drama as Berlin sees it and proceeds to run away in tears, with Mako and Korra blaming each other. Despite all the messiness though, they all make peace with each other, albeit in a way that ties everything up far too neatly, as they all decide to just stay friends. But of course, this isn't the case, as when Korra was later kidnapped, this sends Mako into a rage mode, which makes Asami realize that he likes Korra, with the two later breaking up. It's also only when Mako is about to have his bending stolen by Mon that it allows Korra to finally unlock airbending, something she has been struggling with the entire season. The season ends with Mako and Korra becoming a couple as they confess their love for each other, with it being one of the most eye-rolling romantic moments I've ever seen. You would think that as a result of being a TV show, this would allow for Korra to be properly developed, yet it ends up feeling underdeveloped due to the show rushing their relationship. Though this is where season 2 factors in, as while all the drama with Korra was annoying, breaking them up was one of the series' best decisions. Throughout the entire season, the two are constantly getting into fights, between Korra getting upset for Mako never saying the proper words she wants to hear, and later when the two argue over how to handle the fact that Korra's uncle Unalaq took control of her home. Mako ends up ratting out Korra's plan to enlist the United Forces to fight Unalaq to President Riker, which leads to them breaking up, only for Korra to get amnesia and forget that they broke up, with Mako hiding that fact from her. But then in the finale, they break up again due to Korra remembering it. Though this time it's on better terms as they both agree that they just don't work as a couple. Them breaking up felt much more believable than them becoming a couple, as more time was spent showcasing why they don't work together as one. I actually commend the fact that the series subverts the love at first sight trope by highlighting that just because you fall in love with someone doesn't mean it's guaranteed you'll be with them forever.
Just look my way.
Stolitz is a relationship that I had my fair share of problems with, between the power imbalance, the narrative acting as if Stolitz is never in the wrong, and how it takes away focus from other characters who should be getting far more focus. But one of the biggest failings of the ship is the series' decision to make it in which Blitz and Stolitz were quote-unquote childhood friends, with Blitz being his first ever crush, as it weakens this ship. Stolitz first met Blitz when he was taken to the circus by his father as a way to cheer him up after being told that he would be forced to marry Stella to sire future heir for the Grishas. He was having a miserable time up until he saw Blitz repeat performance, with him becoming instantly smitten, along with being the only one to find his jokes funny. Because of this, Stolitz's father arranged a deal with Blitz's father, Cash, to have Blitz entertain Stolitz for the day. For Stolitz, this would be the most important day of his life, as it would be a moment that he would cherish for the next 25 years, but for Blitz, it was just Tuesday. Now, I'm a sucker for childhood crushes who meet together again later in life, but it fails here cause Blitz didn't even see Stolitz as a friend. The only reason he hung out with him was because Cash asked Blitz to use this as a chance to steal valuable stuff from his family. Sure, they had some moments of camaraderie, but it's not like we got a scene that showed Blitz feeling guilty for betraying Stolitz's trust to help sell the idea that he grew to like him. There's also the fact that Stolitz seemingly never bothered to keep in touch with Blitz, nor did he ever realize that the game they were playing was just a way for Blitz to steal from him. Instead, when the two first meet each other again 25 years later, Stolitz assumes that Blitz was trying to break into his chambers to sleep with him, when in reality, he's just trying to steal the grimoire. Blitz plays along with Stolitz's fantasy, but it's clear that he's confused by the whole thing, as he had no idea that the guy he hung out with for one day has been pining for him. Even if you factor in things such as Stolitz being trapped in a miserable marriage, being a hopeless romantic, and also being drunk upon seeing Blitz again, to believe that his childhood crush broke into his home to sleep with him is a massive leap in logic. Stolitz is just like Anna, someone who believes that they are in love but doesn't know anything about the person that they claim to be in love with. But whereas Frozen addressed Anna's delusion, Helluva Boss never does for Stolitz. If anything, it feeds into Stolitz's delusion, as the only reason why Blitz decides to sleep with him is out of pity rather than forming a genuine connection. This of course leads to the transactional relationship that the show would open up with, as in exchange for Blitz using the book to complete assignments for IMP, Stolitz requests one night of passion monthly. Had Stolitz been just some pompous rich guy who had no history with Blitz and instead orchestrated this deal to satisfy his needs, I would probably have fewer issues with this pairing. But by having it in which Stolitz has been in love with Blitz since he was a kid, it makes how he treats him all the worse. He constantly belittles and demeans Blitz, along with refusing to respect his boundaries, yet the show wants to make us feel sorry for him over how for the longest time, Blitz would refuse to return his feelings. This is especially infuriating when they try to do an arc of Stolitz recognizing the power imbalance of the relationship, with him trying to fix it as he wants a real relationship with Blitz, but then it dares to have Stolitz claim that he has never looked down on Blitz. I think the idea that they were going for is that Stolitz is so privileged that he doesn't understand how his behavior comes off, but the fact that they have him say this undermines the idea that he's growing as a person. The show also wants to make us think Blitz is being unreasonable, but not realizing that Stolitz is in love with him, even though he has every reason not to believe that. Now Blitz is a character crippled with self-hatred and loathing. He craves love and affection, yet tends to push away people who love him due to him believing that he's not worthy of it or thinking that he's just going to ruin their lives. This is the reasoning the narrative provides as to why Blitz refused to accept that Stolas is in love with him, along with accepting his own feelings. It's only when Stolas puts his own life on the line in Mastermind does Blitz seem to finally recognize that, as the episode ends with Blitz kissing him on the cheek for saving his life. But this moment just doesn't work due to how poorly written the whole relationship has been. It feels like the intention of having Blitz be Stolas' first true love was to make this relationship more compelling, but it had the opposite effect as the narrative never really challenged Stolas' love for him. What's crazy is that Mastermind would have been the perfect chance to do this by having Stolas confess that he's in love with Blitz and that he allowed him to use the grimoire to travel to Earth. But instead, they have him pretend that he's been manipulating Blitz to do this, which makes no sense. Because of all these things, I just don't find myself captivated by this romance, as the show wants to give them all these big moments that are meant to be moving, yet they don't have any real substance. Stolas is a prime example of how if you don't take the time to make it own, a romance founded on love at first sight feels hollow. Love at first sight is just like any other trope in which how effective it works depends on the execution. It's at its best when the piece of media takes the time to properly develop the relationship and makes it feel owned. I also think it helps if only one half of the pairing falls in love at first sight instead of a mutual love at first sight, but I think even that can still work as long as, again, it's properly developed. But how do you feel about this trope? Which pairings that fall under this trope work well and which ones don't in your opinion? And what's your favorite trope when it comes to romance? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to my channel, and click the bell to be notified when I make a new video. Until next time, catch you later.